to another episode from The Wealth Whisperer, helping you move from confusion to clarity when it comes to all things finance and wealth creation. So today, let's talk about money. Let's get the conversation started. Oh, hang on a minute. That's a taboo subject, right? We're not allowed to talk about money these days. Well, I actually think that that's really wrong because, quite frankly, if you're not having healthy conversations about money with your significant other, with your children when they're old enough to understand, with maybe friends or family members who are maybe struggling or really succeeding, and certainly with yourself. Have a good conversation with yourself about money and how you feel about it and what's going on. Then there may be occasions where you're burying your head in the sand, either about problems that you're experiencing or others are experiencing, or opportunities you're missing and not seeing when somebody else is doing something really well. And you're thinking, well, how are they doing that? How are they able to afford that? And you're not having that conversation about it. You know, you could be quite frankly doing yourself a disservice if you're not having the right kind of conversations, or any conversation, in fact, about money. But we've got to ask ourselves, well, why has it become such a taboo subject when it is such a significant part of all of our lives every day? Is that by design? Is it just by omission? Were we taught not to talk about money because of the very fact that it's a taboo subject? And therefore we've made it a taboo subject? I mean, who knows, right? Of course, the fact of the matter is we don't have to go into the intricacies of somebody's salary, what they're earning or making from their business, or the ins and outs of their day-to-day income and expenses. But just a general discussion about money, about how we feel about it, about what our dreams and aspirations are, or how we can improve our situation. Maybe if we're having challenges or we're finding our finances burdensome, then being able to have a conversation is a really healthy thing to do, right? I'll give you an example. When I was young, my parents used to talk to me about money, and what that did was it helped me to understand their predicament, because they didn't have a lot. We didn't have very much money. We always had enough, but we weren't really wealthy or, affluent in that sense. Money was tight. Money here and there was quite a struggle. And I witnessed this as I was growing up, that, there wasn't oodles to go around. So it helped me realise and understand that actually, if I wanted something, I had to make money for myself if I wanted something. And that started to happen from around about the age of 11 or 12. It also made me appreciate that making and having money wasn't necessarily easy. And when I did have money, I actually valued it. And when I was able to afford to buy certain things, then it made me appreciate the value of those things, and therefore the value of money, the money that had gone into buying those things. And then when I received gifts, it made me understand and appreciate what had gone into the purchase of that gift. It wasn't just a transactional thing. I thought to myself, well, I've had to, weed the garden, let's say, for 50p an hour, or wash the car, and I would get £1 for washing the car. And I appreciate if someone's given me something which is worth £20 or £25 or £10, then I kind of understood that, yeah, someone else has had to work to earn that money to be able to buy me that gift. So it helped me to have that understanding from a pretty early age. And I just thought that was fairly normal to know about these things. But since then, of course, I've met a lot of different people who have had myriad different experiences in their life around money. Some have had money thrown at them, money no object, all expenses paid for holidays or outings, trips, etc. or activities, hobbies, etc. And they have a totally different relationship with money. They don't necessarily or haven't necessarily had the same grounding or understanding that I did when I was younger. So we all have our own different relationship with money, and that's why it's so fascinating and healthy to have conversations about it. Hey, thanks so much for listening into the show. I have a quick question for you. Are you feeling stuck in the grind, even though you're doing everything right? If you're in your 40s working hard in a successful career, but are wondering when you'll finally get to live life on your terms, you're not alone. After 15 years of coaching high performing professionals, I'm opening up a few one-to-one coaching spots again for those ready to take back control. This isn't fluffy life coaching, it's practical, no BS conversations to help you escape burnout, build real momentum, and start moving towards freedom. If that's you, I'm offering a free 30-minute clarity session to see if we're the right fit. No pressure, just real talk and real strategy. Head to the link below to book your free session. Spots are limited, so grab one while they're open. Listen, you've waited long enough. This might just be the step that changes everything. For example, our son now, who just turned 18, has a totally different perspective and understanding and experience of money than I did when I was a child. He's witnessed a lot more being around. He's well, we've gone on some really nice holidays, of course. We've been able to afford to buy him things in his life, but we've also taught him that if he wants something, he has to earn it himself. And so he's been introduced to money ideas, concepts, the value of money. And actually, I remember him saying when he had to say, earn money, save up for it, and then let's say, for example, buy a PlayStation with it. Yeah, PlayStation 4, I think it was, when he was like, wow, I've earned this money. I've gone out and I've bought this myself with my hard-earned cash. And he said to me, he said to us that he really appreciated it in a totally different way than if he had just been given it. And that was like a real penny drop moment for us, because we realized and recognized that, yeah, just giving children things and allowing them to have things, if you are in that fortunate position to do so, isn't necessarily the best thing for them. And those who do experience a bit of struggle or do experience a bit of hard work and having to put their own energy into something in order to be able to have something themselves, gives them a totally different perspective. And of course, this is a totally different, his world now is a far more abundant and expanded world. And his mindset is totally different to how ours was at his age. And, he's been introduced to concepts and ideas that we weren't even aware of until our late 20s or even into our 30s. So, he's really ahead of the game compared to where we were at his age. In fact, I remember him at the age of 6 years old. He knew that we bought properties and did them up and then let them out or sold them. And he was aware of this. And at the age of 6 years old, I remember driving him back from school one day, and he was in the back of the car and he said to me, "Mom, honey, can I invest in one of your properties?" And I was thinking, and I just said, yes, not having a clue really how he was going to do that. But we thought, okay, we can work this out. And of course, at that time, he was not making his own money. So what we did was we said that we took a couple of payments from his child trust fund that we were putting away for him, and we were going to invest that into our next property project. So we involved him in it. We devised a very simple spreadsheet to show him the money that we'd put in on his behalf, which was, in effect his money because it was coming from his trust fund. Then we did the whole process of the refurbishment, the purchase, the refurbishment, the end value, and therefore the profit that he made. And he was involved in seeing the project as it evolved and how it developed. And he came to view it with us and took photos. So he was kind of involved in it. And I seem to remember he made, I think it was around about 25% profit on his money. And so we gave him the profit from that deal. And he was very chuffed with himself. And so he saved £20 or whatever it was. And he bought himself a little game. I think it was a game of Uno or something for £5 or £6. And it was just such a fun moment for him and for us to see, oh, okay, so I've created money out of nothing, obviously with, work and effort and energy and knowledge in the mix. But it was a great a great gift to have given him, we feel. And he then went on to be interested in the cryptocurrency market when we started getting involved back in 2017. And we were just seeing these insane movements in the market and talking to him about how Ripple XRP had gone up 100% one day and then 80% the next day and all this sort of thing. It was like mind blowing for us. And he's just like, oh, and how much did it go up today, mummy? And it was like, oh, well, it's gone up 70% today. I mean, talk about mind blowing stuff. And we did say to him, of course, that was completely insane and very abnormal for the market, but he was learning and absorbing, and he was watching the market go up and watching it come back down again, and fascinating stuff for us, but also for him as well to witness. And then when he was 13, he started a little business of his own, which was website building, and he did pretty well actually, and he had, I don't know, somewhere between 20 and 25 clients over the course of time. And it was the conversations that we'd had with him about how to manage his money, how to put it into different pots for different purposes, that enabled him to afford all sorts of things that he would never have been able to do at that age had he just been being given pocket money, or even having gone out to do like a Saturday job or something like that. So it was, very interesting to watch that develop over the course of time. And so now he's at the age of 18 and he has that foundational understanding. And I think that was a real gift. So he is now very conscious of where his money is going. He's earning money because he's out to work. He decided to go down that route rather than, further study. And, where his mind is at and where he can see his future is very, exciting. But it just almost feels normal to him now because of the conversations we've had. So it's interesting when you think about the conversations you could have. So that's my life. That's what we've done and what I've witnessed myself. So the question I have for you is, how could you incorporate this into your life? What conversations could you have with your partner, with your significant other, or with your children, or with your parents, or with a friend? Perhaps ask, how do you feel about money? And how's it going for you? Are you feeling good about what you're earning, where it's going, what it's doing for you, etc.? If not, why not? If it is so, why so? And it just starts to open up that door without going into detail about your situation. So maybe jot down some notes for yourself to start with. How do you feel about money? How do you feel about your own financial situation? Are you burying your head in the sand about something, or are you feeling really good about it? So just start to journal it. Start to have that conversation in your own mind about how you feel about money. And then start a conversation with others. Can you start a conversation about making money or saving money? What about spending habits and whether they're serving you or not? This all starts to open up ideas and minds, both for yourself and to others, to different possibilities, to ways of dealing with, challenging situations with money, and therefore coming up with solutions about how to get yourself out of, if you find yourself in debt or with, a CCJ or a bad credit score or something like that, then, a way forwards, basically, without staying stuck. If these conversations aren't being had, then they may be left unchecked, if not for a while, perhaps even forever. And that could have a huge impact on your life and the quality of your life experience for many years to come. So, money habits are formed very early on. And if they're never challenged, then you may never realize the potential that you have on the financial front. So it's time for that to stop. It's time to have that conversation to start with yourself. And then secondly, with other people. And that time to do it is now. Please, if you've enjoyed today's episode, share it with somebody else who you feel may benefit. And if you can, perhaps drop me a little line on a review would be amazing, because by doing so, it helps this show to grow and expand, and it helps to expand other people's minds and allow them to start having that conversation for themselves as well. So thank you as always for listening in. And of course, I very much look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, I hope you have a really great conversation about money starting now. Take care till then.